It'll always take a few moments to settle in. Not too concerned to begin with exactly how you want to be sitting and so on and so forth. Just noticing things like where your feet are and feeling your weight dropping down. It's a way of initiating that feeling of drawing your attention inwards to your body. Maybe take a couple of slow, gentle breaths. And rubbing your hands together. And pads of your fingers tapping over your face. And then up and over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder, your arm, the other side. Upper part of your chest. Down to your belly. And relax. Feet out, sit back in your chair, so drop back in to your chair. Let yourself settle into the chair for a few moments. You can bring your attention to this area of your chest, ribs, upper back, and just very deliberately, very gently tighten up around that area and then release. Just it's a quick release. Just notice that feeling when you do that, that you sort of drop into the chair. Start the chair sort of catches you. Try the same thing, your hips and lower back, tension up and dropping. It can be quite a strong feeling of dropping. It often feels as though the drop is actually bigger than it is. So a lot of that feeling is within your body. One more time. Now, come to the upright stance again and do the same thing again. It's a little bit more difficult because you don't have the support all the way up through your body with the chair. So if you can just bring your weight forwards a little bit, that's good, and tilt forwards. So a bit of your weight, about a third of your weight is in your feet. And then once again, just tensing, lifting your shoulders a little bit, and then drop. And it feels almost as though your shoulders dropping into your rib cage, into your back. One more time. And then again, hips and lower back, just tighten up gently and drop. You can just see me dropping down a little bit, but again, it feels quite a big drop. And in fact, notice also what's going on in your back and your shoulders once again as you do this. So you're dropping into the chair, but there's also a feeling that your upper body's sort of dropping into your hips and the legs and pelvis. One more time. So what we can get from that is that feeling of releasing what it actually means in kind of real terms rather than just an abstract word. But also the fact that when we sort of drop the shoulders, when we drop down, we drop into something. And again, it points us towards this feeling within the body of something that is capable of supporting us when we release tightness and stiffness from the body, there's something that we can begin to increase our sense of confidence in. And that really helps us to let go of tightness and stiffness in areas like our shoulders and our back and our hips. But it's a valuable little exercise. And with that kind of in the back of your mind, we're always looking to maintain that feeling of dropping, of releasing, drop into the ground, the outer regions of the body drop in towards the skeleton, and so on and so forth. And just beginning to gently turn your head. Not only do we want to get a feeling of dropping into that sort of area deep within the body, as we get more used to the movement, so those of you doing this, watching this either live or online on YouTube, who've got some experience of this, you can take your awareness into that area. This is where we want to try and initiate the movement. Shoulders, hands in front of your shoulders, circling your elbows round. We can see this very clearly, I think, with this exercise, that when you start to rotate in your shoulders, there's an effect in your chest and your rib cage, your upper back and shoulder blades. But if we bring our attention and our intention to those areas, more than just the elbows, then we start to feel this idea of the movement being generated from deeper within the body, going forwards. It's a real help to the movement because it spreads the effort through more of the body. For instance, that this phrase I'll quote sometimes from the Tai Chi classics: when one part of your body is in motion, the whole of your body is in motion. So it's feeling the connection. Hands down to your sides. Same thing here, a bit more subtle, but still that movement in chest and upper back. And then winding around. And back. Rest your hand, tilting forwards in your pelvis and more of your weight going forwards. And then using your feet and your legs, push yourself back. So we start to become more aware of what's happening in the center of our body. And if there's a single point that we could say is the sort of connecting point for everywhere in the body, it is this central area. That's the part of the body that we really want to get a sense of sinking towards the ground. And it's often described as being like the hub of a wheel, that's a bicycle wheel with the smoke radiating out. Where that feeling of change between your feet and your hips as your weight moves between them. And then turning slightly, feeling the distinction between the leg that you're moving towards, the full leg, the substantial leg, compared to the other leg. So this movement of the weight is a very dynamic quality. Used a great deal in the different movements that we do, and we can feel the transition from one part of the body to another, from a foot to a hip, from a foot to a foot, from a hip to a foot, and so on. And think of that almost like you ride a bike, you push the pedals down. It's one of the really important motivators in touch. Turn in the other direction. So as well as benefits to do with releasing joints, warming muscles up and so on, these early movements also help us to get a sense of a very simple way of some of the really important key principles. So. And this time, in the forward position, turn. So you go across to the other leg and then roll back into your hip, turn across to the other hip. So you've got this sort of movement that is moving your head, shoulders for you. And back the other way. Come back to the center. And then push one heel up and extend your leg. Put the heel down, lower the toes. Then.
Hi, this is Mike on Cambridge 5090. Thanks for your call. I can't take it just yet, but if you'd like to leave a message, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for your call. Bye for now.
Thank you for calling.
Sorry about the background. So come back to this position, ideally with about a third of your weight forwards. With that constant feeling of dropping down, gravity is constantly working on your body, working through your body. We can either find a way to allow that to happen without straining, or we end up resisting it. It's the first thing that we want to try and establish, allowing the center of gravity to drop too. That's probably less significant in the chair, but if you can start to have some confidence in allowing that to happen, this brings us back to that inner structure. Then when we get to the standing, you'll already have some idea of what you're trying to achieve there. Don't strain to hold the posture. If you find, for instance, that your back starts to ache, you need to take a break. You can sit back, you get a little bit more support for your back that way. Not quite so obvious with the weight in your feet, but better that than damaging your back. Hands down to your sides. Turn your hands, palm forwards again. And this time, as you rotate your arms, you're also moving your weight forwards. This is the exercise bird pose. And then forwards. And back. So we've got the downward movement from the gravity, and the natural response of our body is to a certain point to neutralize that, return it. So it's like you think of somebody sitting down on a trampoline and get bounced up. That gets in a way diverted. Your intention with that movement upwards is to actually let it push you forwards and backwards. It also leads to a movement in your upper body, of course, in particular the back and your spine. And then layered on top of those are these subtle changes in areas like with the chest, as we noted before, and where we actually feel the effect of the movement. And then this time, leaving your hands facing back and following the shoulders, they swing through, fisherman calf of the neck. And you'll see here, I'll do it just with one arm. My hand drops down, it swings up a little bit quite naturally. You don't have to lift your hands. But for most of the time, they're being drawn behind your shoulder. Push back, shoulder pulls your elbow, pulls your wrist. And then as you settle into your hips, the arm swings through. Same thing, same idea going forwards, you settle into your legs. And then back. Both hands, of course, it's nice and soft in your fingers. Imagine you're doing this in water. And to feel that your back is supporting the front of your body. Try not to put your belly in, tightening your chest. Breathing nice and smoothly, not to any particular pattern or method, unless there's a pattern or method that you're familiar with and that works comfortably for you. Don't force anything. One more time going forwards. And from here, leaving your arms out in front as you come up. Feels like you're rolling a ball in towards the chest. Okay. Into the side. And imagine the ball underneath my arms. All I do is use my feet, push myself back, and my hips pulling me back. That brings my arms up, and as that happens, it was just an expansion like a wave coming up underneath my arm, helping to push my arm up a little bit further. But very soft in shoulders and back. When you find areas in your body that are stiffening up, try and apply that same feeling of releasing that we did it in a very big dramatic way at the start of the class of dropping the shoulders down. But if, for instance, as you come up here, you feel your shoulders rising, remember, it's okay to just let them drop. And nipping coming up, you feel you're stiffening in your back, you're kind of straining. Once again, just allow yourself to drop into chair, to drop into your hips and your pelvis. This time, turn your hands palm in, draw your elbows apart, and then rest. Vision spreads its wings. As we do this, it's almost like there's elastic bands between the fingertips. We're drawing them apart and then just allowing them to slowly contract. Belly, chest expanding outwards and then contracting inwards. With the opposite movements in your back, particularly your upper back. So as your chest opens, contraction across your upper back. One more time. This time, as you come back, raise your arms, keep them in line with your hip, but your elbows still go out. Then you press forwards, pushing wave. Notice the shape of my arm. So the hands get pushed forward, and again, there's a natural curve upwards. Try not to lift your arms. It's a very common error with this movement is that we come back and then we try and lift and push. But in fact, it's the push. As I said, your arm will naturally swing up. So once again, maybe just feeling that subtle expansion up through your upper body, through belly, solar plexus, chest. One of the reasons we will try not to hold on to tightness and stiffness in those areas. One more time. And this time, come straight back, elbows coming towards your hips, hands loosely fisted, and going forwards, and arms rotating. So now the elbows don't go out, but nor do they go behind the body. So if I do this without moving my weight, this is how much movement I'd have in my arms and my hands. That angle of the elbow straightens up, not gets straight over, it doesn't block. Just a little bit of movement there. Rotation in my arms. Then if I do this without moving the arms, but move the weight, again, a little bit of movement there. If I combine the two, I let my hips seeming to push my elbows forwards, and rotate at the same time. I get the bigger movement by combining the two smaller movements. And this is a process, a way of moving that we consistently try to develop in Tai Chi. And of course, it relates to that idea that when one part of the body is in motion, the whole body is in motion. Probably more accurate to say the whole body is connected to that, engaged with that way. And then this time, once again, opening your hands out and going forwards. And now turning out, so winding your arms back. Starting position. And then this bit is like pushing wave again. Now, as your hands come in front of your belly, turn them palm down, turn a little bit, and then tilt forwards and let that move up, push your arms out again, your elbows a little bit straighter, swing across, and then back to the center. Then change direction, do the same thing the other way, so polishing the table. Using the center of your body, remember that transfer of the weight we looked at earlier. You have to stand up show you this exercise in the standing version from behind, so you can get a better idea of how the hips will work. It's much more subtle in the chair. See here, hips drop back and down, and then I turn, I push my hips back, that pushes my hands forward to swing my hips across, and then back to the center. Show you again. So this is the kind of feeling that you want in the center part of your body. As is so often the case, a lot of these movements in the chair are pretty a deal more subtle. Let's work a little bit harder in your awareness to really feel that sense of connection in the body. It's very easy just to devolve into simply moving your arm, which is not really the idea of touch. And to get that feeling of the whole body engaged in the motion. So now, just let your hands drop. When we talk about motion and movement, another term for that could be energy. So this is where we find that interaction between the physical, mechanical aspect of the art and the energetics. The next series of exercises are the vertical ones. And there's a couple of ways we can look at this. We could go back to that dropping down. When we drop down, there's almost a kind of bounce up. So the sinking down, the yielding to the pull of gravity produces a movement upwards, again, like you're on a trampoline. The other way of thinking of it is, if we go back to this movement, just rocking your weight forwards and backwards, more of your weight in your feet, your legs expand, pushing your shoulders back, your hips drop back in to the chair, and then there's a bit of a push from that area of lower back, hips and buttocks to take you forwards. And if we describe this movement, this flow of energy from hips to feet as being like a wave, the wave flows forwards and then backwards. If we were to do that movement of releasing down into our hips and our feet, so if you bring your weight a little bit forwards, push down and then drop down, the waves will meet in the middle. And when two waves meet, it produces an upward movement. So there are different ways you can look at these things. Bring your hands around, sink down, and one way or another, feel that movement expanding upwards through the body, and then dropping down. With both those movements, those ideas, those images, it's important to bear in mind that nothing will completely describe an exercise process. So that the ideas, the images are there for us to use when appropriate. And it's one of the ways that we focus our intention into the movements and into the flow of energy. So because there's that downward movement that leads to the upward movement, this exercise is called rooting down. Rooting down is really about that connection down into the ground. Gravity helps you to find that connection, and the expansion up through the body shows you one of the real benefits of that move, which is in a way the source of the expanding energy. And then turning your hands out, wild goose. And this time, as your hands drop down again, tilt forward just enough so that your hands can comfortably swing in front of your knees, drop back into your hips, pushing up again, expanding in belly, solar plexus and chest. This is part in the plants, and then down. So again, working from the ground and bringing your attention and your intention to that feeling of connection downwards each time your body contracts in any of the movements. So this rhythm that develops, this pattern that develops between the downward movement of gravity that we yield to, and the response of our body and the ground beneath us with that sense of a rise in energy, is one of the most significant cycles of movement of energy that we work with in Tai Chi. It's a constant. There's others as well, but this connection to the ground is crucial. This time, letting your hands drop down to your sides, not going forwards, feel the weight of your arms on your sides, and then with the next pattern of expansion, that push your arm up, drop your elbow down, wind your arm around, draw down. Side, chin up, expanding, and turn. Over a period of time, we want the feeling of that movement from within to grow stronger. This is the term sometimes used to describe it as the quality of inner strength. And one of the ways we do that is with the use of various images. Already mentioned the idea of moving through water, but with this one, imagine there's an elastic band down there attached to the floor, and you're drawing the elastic band out, feeling that extension all the way through the side of your body and into your arm and your fingers, and then winding around and slowly down. Dragon plucks the stars. One more after this one. And then both hands again, starting from the center, expanding upwards, a little bit above your head, and then back down. And this downward movement, this contracting movement, brings your attention back to that center part of your body. And again, we expand out from there this time. Hands pushing out and back. Expanding from the center, feeling that push downwards through hips and feet like a balloon expanding, or a ball expanding in the middle of your body, so that the extending movements always begin to be associated with a slightly extra quality of connection downwards to the ground. One more round of this. And this time, when you push your hands out to the side, you add to this, once again, a turn in that center part of your body that redirects your arms. So you can see in many ways the significance of that area between hips and pelvis and your waist. Influence in your body, directions of your body, both horizontally and vertically, so affecting how you're bringing yourself into line with the pull of gravity. Extend one foot now, just place it on the heel with the knee a little bit bent, turning your hands, palmed up, fingers forwards, scooping the sea, and then letting your hips drop back, feeling the expansion again in the front of your body, looking at the sky. Very careful with your back. It's a soft stretch on the back of your leg and in your back, not fully extending. Don't lock your knee out. Pressure on your knee. Moving as far as you're comfortable moving, and with the feeling that you could have moved a little bit further, so that it retains a sense of space within your body for the flow of the energy. This time, rolling your hands in, make a fist again, and then the movement is now upwards, grasping the tiger's ears. Now, change sides, and that within. Start again with scooping the sea and looking at the sky. Again, feeling the action radiating out from the center part of your body, and aware that that center part of your body is always sort of seeking the ground. There's that constant feeling of yielding to the pull of gravity, allowing gravity to pull you into the chair. You feel quite heavy in the chair, and through the chair into the ground, as well as into your feet into the ground. And again, changing, grasping tiny things. One more time. And then come back into your sitting position again. And just pay a bit of attention to how this feels. How would you describe it? Body, mind, energy. Because these are the things that we want to try and find once again when we come to the standing exercises that we're about to do. And so that memory of how this can feel becomes part of your intention in standing. And over a period of time, you'll find that very helpful in actually finding the correct posture. Now, once again, rubbing your hands together, tapping over your face. Over your head and neck, shoulder and arm. Quite rapid movement on the other side, not hard, just upper part of the chest. And then your belly. Finally, so again, your legs, just trying to get the muscles of your legs to to work again after sitting for a while. And pushing your heels up, so your knees come up, straight up and down first of all. And then in a circle. And back the other way. Okay. And standing. Free to make use of the chair. It's quite interesting to try some of these postures and movements. Support is often can be quite instructive for all of us. Sometimes you can do it without the chair, so have your feet hip width apart. This time your weight slightly forwards. I exaggerate, you go forwards, and then your hips drop back. Once again, sitting in the hips. So to start off with, just a couple of times, push your shoulders up and drop down. And then same thing, come forwards a bit, so push up in your hips, put your belly in and drop. If you find in dropping you get a bit wobbly, then just do it by a wall or something like that. And you can see here. And you can take this a little bit further. You can come up on the toes and drop down. And if you do this, you might get a sense of a vibration, a shaking, going up through your back and your spine towards your shoulders. Quite refreshing on your back. One more time. So once again, that gives us a sense of the dropping down leading to the movement up. So with your feet hip width apart, look for that feeling, releasing your hips, sinking down, bring your hands around as though you're cradling the ball, pushing up and dropping down again. At the bottom of the movement, turning your hands out and into the wild goose. And then next time changing into parting the clouds. Just using this little sequence to feel the subtle changes between each movement in the upper part of your body. It's the same in the legs and the hips, but there are subtle differences to the patterns of movement and expansion and contraction from one movement to another, all the way through your upper body, and in your intention, of course. These two are very much linked. So the focusing of your attention means that your intention is going to be more effective. We have this interaction between the three treasures of body, mind, and the movement and energy. One more round after this one. Now keeping the width of your step, turn one foot out, put the other one forward, so you feel as though you're standing on the corners of a square. Make sure it's not too narrow. And again, when I'm in this stance, I could, for instance, go bring my weight into my back foot and sort of, I don't want you to do this, it's quite hard on the knee, but it's dropping down and you get this kind of bounce out. So if we do that slowly, we go bring your weight into the back foot and maybe so gently look for that feeling of release. And when you feel the push, let it push you forwards. Same thing in the back foot. So now we're translating that up and down movement into the forward and back, just as we were in the chair. Again, we can see how the dynamic quality between the pull of gravity downwards and our body's response upwards gets changed, redirected through the center part of the body. So it's almost like, you know, you've got this movement coming up, across, and then down, and then back the other way. But try and avoid actually physically going up and down as much as possible. So the connection to the ground, the root, will give you stability, which is really important, of course, but it's not just about that. It will also help to initiate this very fundamental and very important kinetic energy that is such a characteristic of this art. There's other forms of energy that I'll work with, but this one is a constant. When you go into the back foot this time, raising your toes, so stronger dropping down in the front foot. Front foot is in the back foot. Front foot is now turned out. Push your back knee forwards. And in particular with the back leg, as the knee comes forwards, notice that there's an increase in that feeling of your hip dropping. It's true in the front leg as well. But it means that, you know, that sense of release and that sense of dropping is also associated with initiating the movement in your foot and your leg. And then just stepping in. So rather than straining in the air of your hips and buttocks, maybe in your back and shoulders even, to move the leg, which is again a habit that we often have. Actually, it's the opposite. It's the releasing feeling in hips that helps to initiate the movement of the foot. So what that means is we're actually better aligned and more stable as we take the step. Try that on the other side. First of all, what we would call fixed step, don't rush into the actual stepping. Then you can begin to raise toes and heel. Stepping in. You can either leave your foot in the air, or if it feels better, put the toes down. You'll see me do that sometimes. Just check your posture. And then either go forwards or backwards, depending on where you've got the room. Take a few steps through, take your time. Always looking to make that connection to the ground. Change direction. Might be better to think, rather than making the connection to the ground, but allowing gravity to bring you into the ground. Okay. Now, have your right foot forward, so mirror my movement. We're going into the standing version of fisherman castanet. And as you do this, just as your arms swing through, once again, bring your attention to these subtle changes of expansion and contraction in your body. I tend to notice them in my sides and lower back and belly. There's an expansion here that seems to push my arms forwards. And then same thing here. You may experience it differently. So applying that skill really of noticing what is going on, listening closely and deeply to what is going on within your body. This time, when you go back, turn to your left, so your arms come across your body. They swing up a little bit, and we feel an expansion more on that left side. And then coming back the other way, feeling the expansion on the right side. And from here, your intention now is to expand a little bit more, and that pushes your arms up, coming forwards, letting your arms drop down. Turn your body to swing your hands across your hips, feel the expansion on your right side, and just have this image of the shape, sideways figure of 8, or imagine the infinity sign used in maths and physics in front of you, and that combination of your weight moving, the center turning, the sinking into the ground and the push up, and the patterns of expansion and contraction, just gently guiding your hands and fingers through that shape. Good. And then shake out. It's the same thing on the other side. Turn your right foot out, step forwards, fisherman cast the net, straight forwards and backwards. Again, particularly those of you more familiar with the movement, you can have the image in front of you, recognize the movement. Your intention is for your body to flow through that shape. And then simple change, turning. Now the intention is to bring your hands across the body, feeling those patterns in your sides and your back. Building on those, intending to expand more, but also have the intention to shape. Figure of 8 or the infinity sign, whatever is most useful to you. It's the combination of all these things that gives us that lovely sense of the flow of the movement. It feels effortless. What it really is a different type of effort. And we combine this with the stepping. So I'm going to go forwards again, push my back knee forward, and put in and step forwards. If you want to go backwards first, that's fine. Make sure you keep that connection to the ground. And once again, if it's comfortable for you, you could raise your foot up, bring the knee up perhaps. But if that throws off the flow of the movement, just keep the toes on the ground, that's fine. Remember, an intention for your hips to release, an intention for your center of gravity to drop. These are constants in Tai Chi. I'm going to change direction. And then bring your feet parallel. And shake out. Go back to your chair. So, there are certain things in the Tai Chi process that we practice until they become habitual, so that intention to release, intention to allow the upward movement, the intention to move from your center, become sort of background intention. We do many things like this in our lives. We've done it hundreds of times today, just moving around, doing things this morning, kind of automatically, but not quite automatically, because there's an awareness there, but it's not at the front of your mind. And we try and establish these things, both because they're the important part of Tai Chi, really, but also because when we come to the movements like the ones we've just been doing, they're a bit more complicated. We want them in place so that they're helping us with the move. So now, just coming back to those basics: embrace tiger, return to the mountain. Feeling the expansion upwards, beginning to release in your shoulders, your hips, your back. Draws your hands in, coming back to this first posture of openness, quietness, stillness, but also a strength. Hence the image of the mountain. And then start again. Softening in the shoulders and hips, feeling that drawing your arms in. Noticing how an awareness of that pull of gravity can actually help you to come back to the mountain. Root, quietness, stillness. Maybe something you want to just take away from the session. One more time. And rest. And then just open your eyes. As always, thank you very much, everybody. And as always, happy to answer questions. If you have any, do feel free to email me. But apart from that, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.